Amy and Steve. Hey guys, how's your Monday?
Hey, Scott. Thank you very much. Interesting Monday, I must say. A little bit more action than I anticipated. What say you, Steve?
Just felt like another Monday to me, but it was very busy. A lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, a busy Monday, I should say. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started here. Thanks everybody for attending. Before we get rolling here, just want to take a quick moment to go over the disclaimer. Just want to make sure everybody is aware that all the info that we share with you guys on whether it be this webinar or any of the other webinars we have coming at you on a weekly basis, it's for educational purposes only. So simply meaning if you need investment advice, what to buy, when to sell it, all that good stuff, that's not what we're doing here. If you need that type of service, please seek out a registered investment advisor or somebody else like a Series 7 licensed stockbroker, just somebody that's legally allowed to dispense that type of information to you. All right, moving right along here, just like to take a little time at the top of the hour to let everybody know about the environment that we've created around the award-winning TI technology. Of course, we've got Barry's trading room. Barry's going to open up the trading room 30 minutes before every open, and it's a great place to go, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or an advanced trader. Good amount of people in there on a daily basis. Barry does a fantastic job at moderating such a crowd, and he doesn't mind answering questions once once the first hour or so gets over with, and he's got a little bit of time to think there and answer questions. But just a great resource, and especially the price is right, which is $0.00. So if you haven't been getting in there, taking advantage of the free trading room, by all means, you might want to do that. Every other Monday, you're going to get myself and Steve for the office hours. Every other Tuesday, Steve's going to take the steering wheel, and Andy Linlop is going to ride shotgun with him. Every other Wednesday, you got our CEO and founder, Dan Merkin, along with Brad Williams with the Q&A demo on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday. Every other Thursday, you're going to get Andy in the trading studio. I'm going to ride shotgun with him. And of course, every day, Monday through Friday, we have the daily support session, which takes place between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern. This is on our YouTube channel. When I click to the next slide here, you'll see how to get there. Right here. This email, or excuse me, this URL is static. So once you get there, just bookmark it for easy access. Same bat time, same bat channel, every day between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern. So this is a great place to get anything trade ideas related answered in real time with an actual person and a good visual. So take advantage of the daily support session. All right, and I believe we've got a revamped series of, didn't Stephanie just complete a new Getting Started series, Steve? I think she did.
Correct.
Okay, these are the older ones, they're still good, but you might wanna dig up the new ones at some point. TI University, 101, 201, 301, and 401, definitely help you get over the learning curve a lot quicker. If then just going about this trial and error. 101, 201, definitely a must. Getting into the more intermediate and advanced stuff, back testing, all that good stuff in 301 and 401. These are also hosted on our YouTube channel, Trade Ideas YouTube channel. So if you just cruise on over there and do a search, you'll be able to find these guys and maybe even the new ones as well. Okie dokie. All right, moving on to today's agenda. Gonna hand it over to Steve in just a second, let him do the market recap on all the larger ETFs. A little bit of a gap up today. Initial move was a little down move, but we had a strong finish. My compare counts, expectations, 52% bullish, which kind of means anything goes, and that's what we had today. We had a little upside act or a little downside action to start. Finished by a little rally there at the close and a nice finish at highs. Holly, a little sleepy today, 3 signals, but some interesting trade arounds in the ALC and Texas Roadhouse that I participated in. I'll show you those when we get to the Holly recap. And then just some, everybody's, well, let me just say, most audiences and webinars, you have percentage of people, traders interested in swing trading, intraday trading. Maybe you're interested in both. So now we've got some really good things in the form of the trade of the week, strength alerts, and the upcoming trader's eye, which are all centered around swing trading. Then we're going to have a little intraday fun down here. Some really good movers today from our previous day's rippers. And I took it one step further and I did a little optimization, did a little exploration on some of these top list windows that I used to generate my end of day list, and came up with something pretty interesting, which I'll show you guys when we get to the latter part of the presentation. Also, in these plays that we're going to go over, some stock race correlations that give you the added confidence to go, might just want to stay in this one because some of these levels on the chart that you might not think will get reached. Well, got a couple of examples today, namely AMC, NEGG, that you might have been a little hesitant to hold these, but when you saw the races that they were winning over and over again today, could have given you the confidence to stay in there and get those bigger moves. So some good stuff. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'll pass it on over to you, Steve, and let you do the market recap, and then we'll take it from there.
All right. All right, welcome to my screen. We're going to start with the intraday here. Jamie kind of mentioned we started up with a tiny bit of a gap up and then a sell pullback and then a nice move higher into the close. So we're going to start zoom in and then zoom out. So again, here was today, nice solid day. It's important how we close. We closed strong as opposed to where we were closing a couple weeks ago, weak at the end of the day. But as I zoom out here, I want to start to highlight something. For those of you who know my 15-minute chart, I have two moving averages. I have the 10 SMA, which is up there pretty tight, and I have a 5-day rolling moving average, which is essentially just going to my 15-minute chart indicators and plugging in a value of 130 periods. And wouldn't you know it, if you divide 15 candles into 5 perfect trading days, you get 130 candles. And so it gives me a really nice different perspective on how to approach certain levels. Okay, so all this moving average really does is it gives me a level of interest, and I'm going to highlight that to you in hindsight, which is always perfect. So the market's very strong. When the market's above when anything is trading with momentum above its 5-day moving average, it's strong. But look at these areas of interest. Look at how they were tested. A little sloppy on that one, but for the most part, well, you can see they actually can be like a pivot. So way back here, the 5-day moving average was acting as a bit of a barrier, but then we broke through it, and every time close there, but pretty much close on that one as well, it's acting as support. So I'm going to say, if you're using a 15-minute chart with a 130 period like I am, the momentum is definitely intact going on over there. What does it look like in the Qs? If there's any correlations, not quite as many. Same issue, resistance back here, and then it's found stayed above it for the most part. But when we go to the daily chart now, back to the S&P, this is a whole different ball game than when we were here. Back here, I was saying, every single attempt to rally higher has been stymied and sold. So we are in a seller's market. I didn't want to call it a bear's market, but that's where we're in a seller's market. And this 200-day moving average has come back into play again. We bounced off of that low. We hit under the 200-day moving average right there, a perfect little doji candle. I thought for sure that was going to be where the sellers jumped back in and took control. The reason I'm highlighting this area is because I think it's a very significant moment in time here. This is where the bears realized that sell the rip isn't working anymore. Now, all of a sudden, the dynamics have changed again. The price action is back in clean air here. It's above all moving averages. The moving averages are turning back up and crossing over each other. What was resistance of the 200 is now acting as support again. And now the S&P, the SPY, is paying close attention to this quickly rising 10 SMA. So the SPYs are above the 10 SMA on the daily and the 5 SMA holding on the 15. Boy, you don't want to be short this market, I don't think. I think the market's anticipating something. If I had to guess, maybe it's the Fed is going to start getting squeamish again and backing off their hawkish policy. Who knows? But we can't try and guess that. We just have to look at what the footprints in the sand are telling us, which is essentially this is the psychology of the herd out there right now. And a lot of volatility back here, but for the moment, the bulls are back in control big time. They're trading back in clean air. And the NASDAQs are bringing up the rear as they have been. They were the weakest and the first to dive down, and look at how much the 200-day played in the NASDAQ there as resistance. Well, we're back above all moving averages except for the 200-day, so it's almost probably a foregone conclusion. We're going to test this maybe tomorrow in the NASDAQ and the Qs. Who knows? But a lot of just pent-up strength and short covering, mind you. This extra little push that we got off of that doji candle here, a lot of it was the shorts realizing, oh shit, we are not going to hit this wall and roll back down. I got to get out of my shorts, and we got to start covering. And everybody else smells a bloodbath of short covering, and they start piling on. So I think that's where the market psychology is right now. I want to also look at the IWM, because if we look at both of them there, IWM didn't really move much higher. IWM looks really sweet. I'm saying you guys keep your eyes on the small caps tomorrow, because this little guy right here might want to play catch up. You know, I've seen days where the SPY and the Qs are up 1% and IWM's up 3%. So the way in which the small cap Russell ETF here has been consolidating nicely, that's a beautiful, beautiful little technical setup there. I would not want to be short this. But what I'm saying is watch the small caps tomorrow, guys. They could try and play some catch up to what the NASDAQ and the Qs were doing. And then lastly, thank God the trade of the week, again, is working well. First Solar, no reason to get out. Hopefully the date with the 200-day moving average will be maybe attained tomorrow in the first half of the day. And we can call that a nice quick success in the trade of the week. What is that, David? SPY, wouldn't we hit our head at the 2 to 3 days higher in February? Possible. I get caught up on moving averages, but I think this is what you're talking about right there. So yeah, what could very well happen is that little pivot area that David's pointing out could easily correspond with the 200-day and the Qs that we just saw. So we might see some strength tomorrow, but take profits early if you don't want to hold on to some pullbacks, because there's a very good case to be made for why we could pull back tomorrow in the averages. If we don't, then I'm making the case, keep an eye on the small cap, because that IWM chart right there looks pretty darn sweet, the way it's just resting above those moving averages. That's all I got, Jamie.
Thank you very much. And yes, fantastic start to the trade of the week. And hopefully a move higher tomorrow. All right. Let me grab it back here. All right, should have eyes back on my screen now. Oh, and before we progress here, you know, you were commenting on, you know, the Fed and interest rates, and, you know, had the first ratchet up last time. You know, it's kind of like deja vu all over again. You know, if we kind of go back to the late, or not late 90s per se, but that is when they started ratcheting up interest rates, and then into the 2000s before we had the big dot-com bubble pop. But there were two things that were present back then that we're starting to see now that have not been on the scene as of late. Obviously, the first rate hike. But of course, we know if they do that in quarter points, maybe get a little frisky later. If they do maintain that policy, maybe even ratcheting up in half-point increments, who knows? But that and stock splits, you know, how long before, you know, before these other splits started happening? What is it? Apple, now Tesla is contemplating a split, you know. Splits are starting to happen again, whereas we hadn't seen splits in a very, very long time. Now we're starting to see splits. Now we're starting to see interest rate ratcheting up. So, you know, everything in cycles, deja vu all over again. So it's just kind of an interesting observation. Is that where we are in the cycle? Because if it is, could still be a lot more upside left before the cycle completes itself. So interesting stuff. Okay. All right. So my compare count window today, when I saw these readings, I'm like, well, be prepared for anything. And sure enough, that's exactly what we got with that first down move in the SPY and then the finish higher. So we got a little bit of both there. Now, as far as Holly goes, let's go ahead and knock the Holly recap out here. As we can see from the trade blotter here, not that busy today. And if we look at all the different risk modes, conservative, keeping in mind that all of these trades, I've got mine set on 100 shares a piece. So just a flat out even 100 shares a piece. That's what these numbers are all reflective of. So in conservative profit mode, down about a point, a little over that at $107. Moderate, we had a loss of 79. And if you're just buying and hoping, well, it paid off today to the tune of about a point, you know, $95.60, doing 100 shares a piece. However, not really recommended to just buy everything and hope for the best. Typically, you're going to stick to the conservative or moderate profit mode here. But some interesting things to point out. First thing, usually like to talk about any spread between conservative and moderate at the end of the day. Well, as you can see here, not a whole lot. All right, we got a little bitty smidge between conservative and moderate profit right here in the Napa trade. All right, not anything to write home about, but still a little bit. So let's take a peek at that one. And for those of you who might be new in this webinar today, just a quick highlight of what conservative profit is versus moderate. In conservative mode, you're always going to see the exit reason here. 5 different reasons, potentially. Stop loss, profit target, or a timed hold. And then the 2 variables where the AI can close out a trade early come in the form of profit save, which is what triggered the Napa close for a flat. Had we held it, would have made a whopping 28 bucks. AI can also close out a loser sooner than soon, instead of waiting for the stop or the whatever to get hit. That comes in the form of reduced risk, but we did not have any of those today. Now in moderate mode, just puts a stop loss out there. It either gets hit or it doesn't. If it doesn't get hit, then that trade just cycles to the rest of the close. Now, ALC, Texas Roadhouse, 2 stop outs. However, these presented themselves with pretty decent good trade around opportunities, or presented us with pretty good trade around opportunities. So here we are looking at the ALC trade. We can see the first buy came up here. How many candles? 1, 2, 3, 4. So about an hour later, we get the stop. Okay, boom, stop out. As we can see here, look how the stock reacted around that pivot area or that stop area. Traded below it for a little while, about 30, 45 minutes if we count this candle, but then it reclaimed it. Okay, right about that time, I'm like, let's see if we can get something out of this. Took the little dip here. You can see this is my second buy right here, and it worked. That trade around worked, all based around what I saw right here on the intraday. All right, we dipped below it a little bit, we reclaimed it, got these little wiki bars right here, and took a chance, and it panned out quite nicely. So not a bad trade around in ALC today. Didn't quite get back to flat on that one, but pretty close. I think after it covered up the loss on this one, I was down about 3 cents in that trade. So successful trade around nonetheless. Texas Roadhouse one was a little bit better than that. Okay, and here we are looking at TXRH. We can see the first buy up here, and then we can see the stop out down here. Chugs along the stop area right here. I said, you know what? I'm going to take a chance on it right here. Little luck never hurts. Didn't quite bottom ticket, but got it just above the low there. All right, and you can see my second buy right there, brokerage plus, and my second sell up there. So even though we're seeing red over here in moderate profit, after I tacked on these 2 trade arounds, instead of being down almost a point, ended up actually being up about a point on all of the Holly trades today. And a little bit easier to keep track of when there's only 3, but just really great examples and trade around opportunities in ALC and Texas Roadhouse today. Short and sweet for Holly. So any questions about the AI, just throw them out there. Otherwise, we'll just cruise on to the rest of the presentation. Okay, now, we always get the question, hey, what do you guys have for swing trading? And we've been slowly developing new tools. Of course, everybody's familiar with the TOW. Steve pointed out that one's off to a great start. That one's in your inbox, assuming you sign up for it every Monday. Then we have our strength alerts as well. Of course, it's real easy to access that channel over here. All right. And of course, you can always pop the window out and make it part of your default layout. And of course, on the strength alerts, a little bit different than the TOW. You get 5 of these guys in your inbox every Monday, and then you just try to time them the best you can. But ideally looking to hold those for, buy on Monday, get out sometime on Friday of the same week, unless you're just, really confident about it and want to hold it. I mean, it's not ironclad. So between TOW and strength alerts, we got 5 decent swing trade candidates coming at you every week. Now, we're about to bring something else online as well. And of course, we're going to debut it hopefully within the next week or two in the form of a new channel. So I can't necessarily dish this out to you guys just yet, but this is kind of a little sneak preview. It's going to be a top list. It's going to be called The Trader's Eye, and it's going to be a curated list of different swing ideas from all the different trade personalities here at Trade Ideas.
I
And this
just
will be
added 2 ideas for tomorrow.
okay, awesome. So see, just like Steve said, popped a couple. This is going to be attached to a universal list. So all you guys out there won't ever have to worry about updating or anything. As soon as a trader here makes an adjustment, boom, on that next 30-second refresh, it's just going to adjust. So anything that's on there is fair game. Of
By the
course,
way, I'd not to interrupt you, but can you put up
that's okay.
TNA, Tom Nancy Alpha? This is the leveraged IWM. I love that IWM chart so much that TNA, see that daily, how it's just sitting there looking for an
Yeah.
excuse?
Mm-hmm.
You guys, if you're a Trade Ideas user, put a price alert in there like Jamie might be doing or whatever, but don't lose track of that tomorrow. So that's going to be on that list tomorrow. I just added that.
Right, so let's just do that. I'll go ahead and add it right now as a price alert. The high of that candle, 66.22. So we'll go 66.23. All right, price alert set. So not ready for distribution just yet, but hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have a better idea of when that channel is going to be available. So therefore, you're going to have the trade of the week, strength alerts, and the trader's eye, which is constantly going to be changing. All good and decent swing trade ideas. So pretty cool stuff coming down the pipe there. All right, moving right along. Now, I've talked about my previous day's rippers, top list and alert windows in the past, and boy, they did not disappoint today. And they've been pumping out some pretty good intraday setups since I started watching this little technique that I've been using. And today was no exception. All the names that you see here were pretty much pristine setups. So let's go ahead and take a look. And to refresh everybody's memory, this is a real simple process, okay? And it's taking into account these 4 windows here, these 2 top lists right here, and these 2 alert windows, which are going to be pointed to the end of day list that we make with these 2 windows here. Now, real simple process. These are all the things that were on here at the close today or shortly before. So I'll just simply highlight, drag and drop all these symbol lists into my custom list that these 2 windows are pointed at. And then tomorrow, I'll watch these windows for decent looking intraday setups. And what I've been focusing on is the pre-market, all right? Using the pre-market to assess an entry and also to assess risk. So let's take a look at some of the things that were produced today. Hold on, my mouse isn't cooperating with me. Okay, let's just go ahead and get AMC out of the way because boy, what a beautiful setup in the pre-market. 15-minute intraday candles here. I mean, right here, this pre-market consolidation right here. I mean, it doesn't really get any better than this. So what do? If it's to the upside, we just wait for a break to the upside. If we're watching for downside short plays, obviously it would be the exact opposite. But first minute of the open, and where I really find a lot more value other than the setup here is taking some of the scary factor away if you do want to get active right at the buzzer, okay? Because we all know if you're not careful and you don't know where your risk level is and the ability to put that stop loss in, you can get steamrolled pretty easily at the open. But on the other side of the coin, that's where some big move potential occurs. All right. So looking at the AMC chart here, and of course we're looking at 15-minute candles. If I change it to 5, we just have to scrunch it up a little bit more. But you can see in this opening candle here, we break that little range, and then it was just off to the races. I mean, this thing kind of astounded me. What I was alluding to earlier is, you know, using the stock races here, and I'm just going to go ahead and move one of these lines up to this little area of congestion back here, because a lot of the times we get a good move, say we bought this thing on the open based on what we see right here. Our risk is clearly defined if we're using the lower end, make it penetrate that lower end of the pre-market range by whatever your favorite amount is. Some people would pick a penny, some people would pick 5 cents, a dime, whatever. But even if you picked a penny outside that low, never got there, all right? Just up and away today. Earnings are out of the way, so we know that this was not an earnings play. March 1st, I think, is when earnings were on AMC. However, say you're in this trade, I would have thought for all practical reasons, well, this would probably be the stopping point as we bump our head back here in this little area back from what, January, February of 2000 of this year, right? But not the case, all right? It just shot on through there and looks like it has its eyes, who knows, by the time tomorrow's over, we might be through this level unless we take a little reversal and consolidate for a while. But if you're watching races, and of course, what type of race is up to you, but this is one of my favorites as of late, and it's just hugging the 10, all right? As Steve was talking about earlier, here we have a 15-minute chart. My green line is the 10-period moving average here, and look how that thing adhered, and look how it ruled the show all day. So after that entry point had passed, what do I see coming through my races? And what I've got mine set up to do is anything just slightly above the 10. As you can't see the setup here, but if I showed you the top list, it's just, hey, show me things that are above the 10, not too far above. Check out AMC, all the times it was coming through, 49 here, 50 here, 53 here, 54 more here. So these are 1-minute races. I prefer 1-minute races because I start getting that information a lot quicker. But it was just all over the place today. So when you see a good setup and you make that choice entry, and then you see that stock winning race after race after race, well, that can give you the added confidence to hold it. And this is a classic example here. It did not stop at that little area of congestion back here. It just kept on going. I mean, something was up. Volume was big today. I think we had 5x on the relative side, 512 million share float, and this thing almost cranked out 220 million shares today. So it's always good when you make that setup and you see that stock hitting race after race after race. So keep that in mind. All right, we had another one from these windows today too, NEGG, which, I mean, once again, looking at this pre-market range right here. Now this one acted a little different. I'm gonna go ahead and expand these out, but the area of interest, we did come down here and tickle that pre-market range, but notice we didn't just jump above it right on the open. So it's really not a factor here. We just kind of gyrated around for the first hour, a little over an hour, about an hour and a half actually, because then 10 o'clock my time, 11 o'clock Eastern, that's when we came up here and popped that opening range, or excuse me, that pre-market range, went sideways for a little bit, and then whoosh, when the volume came in, off to the races. Pretty significant move considering the fact that that signal came at approximately $5.32. We topped out around $8.50 or so. So huge profit potential in NewEgg. Funny thing is, I haven't seen the symbol in so long. Reminds me of all the computer parts that I bought from NewEgg back in the old days. Kind of didn't even know that they were still around, but here we are making a massive move today and a beautiful setup on breaking that pre-market range, just using these two top lists over here. Of course, NewEgg showed up as a decent mover the prior day, and then showed up again today, breaking that pre-market range and made a huge move. Now, did it show up on my races as well? Well, you can see right here all the occurrences: 53, 52, 51, very similar to what we saw in the AMC. All right, just looking at the questions panel. Looks like you got it under control there, Steve. And yeah, Trader's Eye will all be longs. All right, Sono, another decent little play here. Of course, kind of pales in comparison to AMC and NewEgg, but the pattern is the pattern. Not quite as pretty of a pre-market range right here. You can see right here on that opening tick, boom, we broke that pre-market range. Kind of hemmed and hawed for about 30 minutes around the 29.16 level, but still a decent move. Once again, the 10 was in control. I'm pretty sure Sono was all over this. Yep, Sono right down here. You can see 53 occurrences just in that one little slice there. And if I scroll down, you'd probably see more and more of that as well. Of course, kind of pales in comparison to the other two, only about a point move on Sono here. But once again, another really decent setup. Didn't throw any wiggles whatsoever. Yeah, that was the opening candle here. So it did throw a little bit of wiggle here. But once again, if we're using the bottom of the pre-market range there, no stop out there, you know, kind of classic of the opening 30 minutes, throws an elbow to the upside, throws an elbow to the downside, and then the real move occurs. And lastly, we had little DATS here. All right, a little bit different of a pre-market. You know, we got the big, kind of a big green candle here, wedged up a little bit, but then, hey, on the open, whoosh, right back through here at $2.33. Kind of up to discretion here. Once you see this little base put in, you could use this level, or if you're really playing, you know, pure here, the bottom is down here. Obviously, if we use this as our stop, we'd probably want to size down a little bit. If you feel like being a little bit more aggressive, bottom of that little wedge right there would have been just fine. Would have kept you in the trade. As we break this level here, off to the races. Smaller stock, but hey, 235 up to 325. A great percentage move on a little DATS right here. And that little guy pumping out some massive volume here to the tune of about 104 on the relative side. 13, call that 14 million shares in the float, and it kicked out about 188 million. So that's some serious float turnover in DATS today. All right, so those are the highlights from the previous day's rippers. I'll make sure that I drop these top list into the chat before we're done here today. And just keep in mind, it's a very simple process. These windows right here, all we're doing is just attaching new high and new low, and then pointing the custom list that we use, these two top lists to make, to these windows. So just showing you what's in here. New high, pre-market highs. These things are cycling through in the pre-market, you know. So keep in mind, that's a good time to find the ones that have the nice flat consolidations, because you know that those are going to be some of the more A+ setups if they do break those levels. So just new high, pre-market high for the long, and the exact opposite for the short side. New low, pre-market lows there. All right, any questions about that, just let me know. Now we're going to talk about creating something new. All right, we talked about the correlations and things that you're hitting or participating in. When you start seeing them show up on the races, gives you added confidence to stay in those things. But I took it one step further because I've been watching these windows day in, day out for, I don't know, 6 weeks now. And I started noticing that some of the ones that show up close to the open, they start out at 1%, 2%, but they go much higher, like NewEgg, you know, only up a little bit from prior close for a long time. Then we get 1%, 2%, and then, you know, then they start to rocket. So I was thinking to myself, I know my filter set in here is not very complex. And if we take a peek here, it's not. You know, we have a minimum maximum price, and then we're just throwing a volume requirement on there, 200,000 shares. And then I'm just simply sorting by change from open. So not a lot of rocket science going on in these windows here, but let me find the window here. I thought to myself, okay, let's just copy the simple filters in here, these guys right here, and then let's start doing a little bit of back testing here and see what presents itself. So you guys are going to get a chuckle out of this because sometimes I do the opposite of what I'm thinking, maybe a form of alert dyslexia, one could say. So I was attempting to test the upside from the positive change from open, right? Not necessarily the list per se that you see right here now, but just the characteristics, okay? It's had to have traded 200,000 shares. I didn't even bother with any min max prices, okay? But if it's an upside trade, it needs to be up at least 1% from the open, okay? So that's really all I started with. I just got rid of the min maxes, said it had to already trade 200,000 because that lets me know close to the open, if it's already kicked out that much volume, it's probably going to do a lot of volume for the remainder of the day. And since we're leaning to the upside, we want to follow that trend of being up at least 1% from the open, right? So of course I got it all set up. I ran my back test. Waiting 1 minute, you know, waiting for the first minute to get out of the way. Didn't really put a cap on the end time and didn't really use any risk parameters whatsoever because I just wanted to see what was there. So I'm letting it run and I'm thinking to myself, wow, no trades? You know, here we are almost halfway done with the scan. It's not finding a whole lot of trades. I'll let it finish here. But you can imagine what I might have been thinking. I'm like, something's wrong with the back tester. You know, something's wrong with the database. Wonder what's wrong. Wonder why I'm not seeing any trades. There should be a lot of trades here. But of course, when it finishes here, you'll see what I'm talking about. And come on. Need that sprint across the finish line for the hamster that's running the server. And here we go. So up here, I'm noticing 18 trades. Well, something's not right, okay? Well, Jamie, if you're, you know, wanting to find things that are going up after they're 1% up from the open, you might not want to use the new low alert, okay? Should have been new high, but I had mistakenly put new low in there. But guess what? A lot of things you find on accident sometimes end up being good, you know, like all the blockbuster drugs that were originally intended for one purpose, but they noticed that they do something else. And then penicillin was born off of moldy bread. We all know how Viagra, one of the biggest blockbuster drugs in history, was supposed to be a blood pressure drug, but they noticed certain things, quote unquote. Well, what can we take away from this? There's a lot of stocks that should have met that criteria. I just used the wrong alert, but all throughout the entire day, only this amount ever go down and print a new intraday low. So that got me thinking, okay, this is good information. I'm glad I made that mistake. Now, when we put the right alert in, which is a new high, instead of a new low, well, then you're going to see a ton of trades like there should be. But that little piece of information gave me a little bit more confidence. I'm like, if only that many out of what should have maxed out here at about 4,000. Okay, so this is what it should have looked like. And if we're hitting these trades relatively close to the open, and the timed hold was all the way out to the close, and only 14 of them tapped out at lows for the day, gee, there might be something here. Let me get to optimizing what we see here. 4,000 trades. Let's do this. Let's see what happens. All right, so the first thing I did is I'm thinking, well, we want to adhere to that close to the open time. So I just went over here to time. Said, okay, let's look at 5-minute blocks here. Okay, well, obviously they're all coming in the first 5 minutes. If we look at the opening 1-minute increments, you can see that most of the productivity is coming in the first 1 to 3 minutes. So optimized by time is what I did first. Then I optimized by price. Came over here, looked in increments of 5, and took out the juicy parts that I see here. And then threw one particular filter in there. All right, since we're looking very close to the open, I went over here and I checked out the shorter term RSI here as well. And you can see this little area of juicy green goodness here. So in the end, just want to check time here. Yeah, okay, we're doing good. In the end, this is what I ended up with here. And if we go into configure, you can see, other than the bare bones filters that I had established first, 200,000 shares traded already on the day, changed from the open at least 1%. Through the optimization process, I figured, hey, between 3 and 34.99 should give me some good yield. And then as long as the 2-minute RSI is not above 40, I think we have something good here. And let's see here. Obviously, all of these trades are coming in a 1-minute increment here. So these are opening trades. If you like what you see on the chart and that pre-market lower range is acceptable, well then you're taking, that big fear factor out of making an opening trade, because you know what your risk is. You're not just buying something and hoping for the best, waiting for that steamroll to hit. Timed exit, okay? Looking for about a 60-minute hold, but you never know. If it's looking good after that 60 minutes is up, well, do a trailing stop, pick a level that you like, stay in there. I'm not really attaching any of these things right now because it's on a trade by trade basis as these things are generated, 40 days on the back test. So when we put all those things in play, we get a nice little high probability opening trade event, okay? And what you see right here, I think I've got all the numbers dialed in. Let's see. Okay, so on a 4-to-1 level here, on the biggest day, we would have needed 88,000 in buying power. That 23,000 covers it right up. And look, this is just investing or putting $1,000 per trade into each and every trade, all right? And we end up with 341 trades, which isn't too bad over a 40-day period, on average less than 10 a day. So you're always gonna get something, but you're not gonna be inundated. But most of the time you're gonna have some trades. These bars are so small because of the trade count. Of course, you're gonna have your big anomalous days, and that's okay. But on average, you're gonna have some trades to look at each and every day. Biggest winning day far eclipses the biggest losing day, as you can see down here. You could probably even take this down to $500, if you wanted to be in every trade, but that's of course up to each individual trader. Of course, I'm in the E-Trade environment, so I'm not accounting for any commissions here. But you could build in a little bit of slippage. You could say, okay, well, I'm in a commission-free environment, but if I end up taking 3 to 5 cents of slippage on my entries, does it still hold up? And the answer is yes. So we got a high probability event here approaching 74, and we still have a decent spread between average winner and loser. So just keep in mind, this is geared, if you feel compelled to take trades on the open, you pull these things up, you're not going to be inundated. It's going to be, it should be easy to read this alert window. You're not just going to have a bunch of things zooming through there. And of course, it's going to be conducive to the, the overall market direction as well. But on a daily basis, more winning days than losing days, a lot bigger of a winning day than a losing day by over a 10x factor. 5 winning days in a row, longest winning streak, longest losing streak, 3 losing days in a row. And of course, these are going to be liquid names. If we just pop over here to say the calendar, had a small losing day on Friday, but notice all the names here. They're going to be liquid names. Check out yen here. Yeah, a little spotty on the daily, but looks like it was pretty liquid in a intraday capacity. Look at one of the winning days. These are all going to be in play with volume. So even if they're not the most liquid on a regular basis, they should be liquid when the alerts come out. Now, I haven't even attempted this on the other side of the coin, negative change from the open for people that like to go short. But I bet there's some promise there. I'll probably get started on that sometime this week. But I'm going to go ahead and drop those top lists into the chat panel, so you'll have access to them. Also, the optimized version of the alert is going to be in there as well. So let me just get these copied. And those should all 3 be in the chat panel now. So that first one is positive change from the open, or negative change from the open. I just forgot to copy the title. And you got positive change from the open strategy in optimized form. All right, Juan, yeah, sure. I can show you my configuration. This is the same config that's going to be in that cloud link that I just dropped into the chat panel. So you don't necessarily have to worry about copying this down. It's going to be in the link in the chat panel. So if things are up 1% from the open, most of the time, they're not going to go print an intraday low. That's not going to say that they're going to be a winning trade, but that gives confidence, right? I was kind of shocked and amazed when that data presented itself to me, keeping in mind by accident. So definitely some fertile hunting grounds there. All right, we're just about out of time. That's all I got for today. Want to thank you guys for popping in to hear what I have to say. So Scott, if you're ready to walk us on out of here and let everybody know how they can save some cash on a subscription, we're ready for you.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Sounds good. So people should be aware we have a great ebook all about our strategy indicators. It's written by our director of technology of software development, Dave Mabe. Just go to trade-ideas.com/strategy. It's got some great ideas in there for you to incorporate into your use of trade ideas. We are partners with Interactive Brokerage. They are a great broker, and they integrate with Brokerage Plus seamlessly, so you can trade automatically from your Brokerage Plus instance once it's connected to Interactive Brokerage. So go ahead and check that out, trade-ideas.com/IBKR to learn some more about becoming an Interactive Brokerage client so you can connect directly. Stock racing is a new feature we recently launched. It's a brand new way to visualize the market and see what stocks in a certain list are winning and losing. Go to trade-ideas.com/stockrace and check out the videos, learn a little bit more about it, and try it out yourself. E-Trade is another one of our partners, and they have $0 commission trading. Just like Interactive Brokerage, they integrate with our Brokerage Plus module, so you can trade directly from Trade Ideas with one click. You can set up your strategies for automatic trading, or you can use Holly AI strategies. in your trading. Go to tradeIdeas.com/etrade to learn some more about that. We've got a code that's good until the end of the month, so you got a couple more days to use it. Use the code MARCHON to save 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas. And if you have any questions, email us info@trade-ideas.com. You can find Steve on Twitter at TISteveG. You can find Jamie at QuantBot. We also have the @TradeIdeas handle, so check those out. We are Trade Ideas on YouTube. We're also Trade Ideas Pro on Facebook. So add us to all your social friend lists, and keep an eye out for the link to the recording tomorrow. You get an email reminder tomorrow with a link to the YouTube channel where you can find that. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Steve. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.